In case you are watching this and you are unfamiliar with what suboptimal characters are, they are player characters that are really bad at doing what they're supposed to be good at. And this is usually done by assigning really low numbers to their main ability scores, which creates a mechanically flawed character. But you don't have to give your character bad ability scores in order for them to have interesting flaws and weaknesses. So why do people do it? Characters like this are a lot of fun, or else people wouldn't make them. They are enjoyable because of their flaws. The easiest way to set up your character to end up being less than helpful in combat and other instances where you roll dice is to sub-optimize them. In my personal experience, much of this enjoyment stems from the harmless and hysterical antics the characters usually end up getting into. Sometimes suboptimal characters fall into a subcategory of joke characters. Other times, a player wants to play the role of the thinks they are helpful but isn't character trope. However, I think that sub-optimizing characters is actually reinventing the wheel when it comes to creating characters with flaws. All the D&D classes already have weaknesses built into them. That's why we have what is called a dump stat, which is the thing your character is ultimately really bad at. It's easy to look over those weaknesses because why would my barbarian be worried about their negative modifier in intelligence when they have a strength of 20? Well, that is actually a very interesting question that you should answer, because the answer you come up with has the potential to help you create a very compelling character that is fun to play because of their flaws. There is a way to make your built-in character flaws enjoyable, and if it's your playstyle, even debilitating to what your party is trying to accomplish without creating a wizard who can't cast spells. The idea that I have hinges on one very key concept, that D&D is a group or party-based game, and that party includes the Dungeon Master. I believe it is best practice as a Dungeon Master to be in contact with your players about what campaign you're going to be running before your first actual game session. That way, you can get some game setup out of the way before your first session, and characters know what to expect when they show up to the table. So here's the scenario. Your Dungeon Master contacts you and informs you that they're going to be running a Strixhaven campaign, which is basically Hogwarts for D&D.
An oversimplification, but yes.
Now you're hit with the urge to create a suboptimal character with major imposter syndrome. Step 1, stop. And don't make a wizard with an intelligence score of 8. Instead, make a fighter with the noble background. It could be a paladin or another class. The important thing is that you are a noble and that you are not a spellcaster. Step 2, make this character the best fighter, rogue, barbarian possible. Really optimize the character according to their class abilities, as if you were preparing for a campaign that involved a lot of hand-to-hand arena combat. Step 3, write your backstory using your background and give your character a good reason to go to magic school. It might play out something like this. You are born into one of the most prestigious magic families in the realm. Your older siblings, your parents and grandparents, and their parents all attended Strixhaven and graduated top of their class as mighty spellcasters. They all have a knack for studying the arcane. You're pretty sure that one of your great-great-great-grandparents was actually a fiend warlock, and that's how your family gained its prestige in the first place, but nobody really knows, and nobody's asking. Anyway, you just really hate to read spellbooks and don't really enjoy studying all that much in general. As the youngest, you were often permitted to roam the grounds of your family estate, and you found you had the best time climbing trees, swimming, and being very physically active. You were the only sibling who never had an excuse to skip out on your fencing lessons. In fact, it was the only thing that really brought you true joy. But as you have come of age, a courier has arrived at the estate with your formal acceptance letter to Strixhaven. You thought about handing it over to that scruffy-haired servant kid in the library who you caught trying to cast Mage Hand once, but there's nothing for it. A carriage is set to take you to school in the morning. Everyone expects you to excel, especially the faculty and other students at Strixhaven. Your familial reputation precedes you, and if you don't live up to those expectations, it will be the biggest scandal in the multiverse. And besides, you would just hate to have that happen. Step 4. Discuss this background with your Dungeon Master and how you intend to play this character. There's a lot of ways this can go. Maybe you have a personal goal of dismantling a family's reputation by just being the worst possible student at this school. After all, you're not a wizard or sorcerer, you're just pretending to be. You can't cast the spells, you fail miserably at crafting the potions, and generally you just really lay into your inadequacies. Then, on the flip side, stuff starts to go down. You and the other classmates you can tolerate, or have maybe even begun to care about a little bit, hint, the other players, start finding themselves in sticky situations. Maybe it starts off with a bully that you beat up because they made fun of your friend for messing up a potion. Then later you're on a class assignment in the woods outside of school grounds, collecting spell components, and you get attacked by an owlbear. Your wizard friends can hold their own well enough, but combat is where you really shine. Maybe one day the spellcasters will be all-powerful, casting spells like Fireball, and even the coveted Wish spell. Shoot, maybe you eventually decide magic isn't so bad and you multiclass a little bit to become some sort of a spell sword. But in the meantime, you are the party's protector. Those wizard students are pretty squishy, and you were able to smuggle your armor to school with you. You still can't really pass your classes, and you do make for a terrible wizard. If you work closely with your dungeon master, you can craft a memorable story, focusing on your character's flaws, and still being able to rely on your strengths when it is necessary. Creating an optimal character and putting them in a setting where their weaknesses are highlighted gives you the ability to play into their flaws, and enables you to have a character that isn't always a burden to your party. I think it is best practice as a player to give the other players some thought when you're making decisions for your own character. Combat and other game mechanics are still fun because your character is still good at what they're supposed to be good at. In this case, there may be times when you are helpless because you're fighting a wizard who keeps casting teleport to stay at a melee range. In that case, you can revel in your character's weakness to your heart's content. It comes down to creating a character that increases the fun for you and everyone else at the table. You don't have to create a suboptimal character to have interesting flaws and weaknesses, and I think utilizing the weaknesses that player classes already have sets you up to make better character decisions and therefore have a better role-playing experience.